Pokemon Go is having a Go Battle Day event on March 5th, and to celebrate the Go Battle Day event, it's actually Go Battle Day Seel. And from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. local time during March 5th, if you evolve a Seel into a Dewgong, it'll have two of its legacy moves, Ice Shard and Icy Wind. Now, on the Game Press tier list, Dewgong is tier 2, and if you checked out Jonkis's Elite TM tier list, it was A+ tier, which is basically tier 2. There's only one tier above the A+ tier. So double legacy Dewgong is like a highly recommended Pokemon, a really good investment there. It doesn't feel that way in the current meta because, Registeel and Walrein brought an entourage of fighters and electrics with them too, all of which aren't too friendly towards Dewgong, but Dewgong historically has been a very powerful Pokemon in Great League PvP. So to celebrate the occasion, I decided to throw together the Dewgong PvP IV deep dive here to help you evolve your best possible Dewgong for Great League PvP. And given the variety of breakpoints and how hard it is to match all these breakpoints together, it might be best to evolve multiple Dewgongs during this period. Given a little bit of a time crunch I'm on here, I won't be able to go over as many details in this video as I usually do in my video guides, but all this information and more will be detailed in the Game Press guide, link in the description to that so you can check it out. This, I'm just going to cover like the main highlights, main points I want to drive across to you. So starting out, let's talk about the defense breakpoint. There is a defense breakpoint on Dewgong that can allow it to take less Ice Shard damage against the rank 1 or like high stat product Dewgongs. This defense range is going to be about 138.28 to 141. And when it comes to this range, like 141 obviously is like the max defense, only 2 Dewgongs ever can hit that. And if you go for the 138.28 defense, that does give you an advantage against like 12 of the top 20 stat product Dewgongs, but there could be higher attack weighted Dewgongs out there or slightly more attack weighted Dewgongs. So, being above 138.28 could better potentiate this breakpoint in the mirror. Now, this mirror breakpoint is pretty tantalizing for Dewgong because it allows you to completely dominate the mirror matchup. Even if you spend 0 shields and your opponent's Dewgong, if it's like the rank 1 or something, the rank 1 clown Dewgong, even if they spend 2 shields, you will still beat that Dewgong because you have the attack breakpoint. It's just how it works. It's crazy. But the mirror does take over 3 minutes long to finish, if it's the completely even mirror. So, there is always a chance that somebody swaps out or something to clear their debuffs to, offset things, get an advantage later. But, I've played the Chansey mirror before in the Jungle Cup, and when it comes to these grueling mirrors, even if the opponent is behind and they're going to lose anyway, they're staying in that mirror. So, could be good to have there. Now, not only does high defense help you out against opposing Dewgongs, there is a defense breakpoint for Greedent, which can enable you to flip the 1, 2, and 0, 1 shield disadvantage scenarios, which can be nice. And then there's also a defense breakpoint for Como-O, falling in the same kind of range, that could enable you to flip the 0, 0 shield situation. But for the Como-O situation, I think it can get to be a bit untenable if it has higher attack than the rank 17 Como-O. If it's high enough, you're not going to survive that close combat, is all I'm saying. So, but something worth keeping your eyes peeled for. Now, if you do want to thrift on the defense a little bit more, my thrift recommendation is between the 136.81 to 137.81 range, and that gives you defense breakpoints against like a wide variety of Pokemon in the meta. It doesn't really flip any of the matchups against them, from what I've noticed, in perfectly even-Steven situations, but something to be mindful of. And when it comes to a bare minimum defense stat, I found that the 131.7 is as low as Dewgong could go before like random matchups just started to get flipped because of the lack of bulk. I can't say for certain what the bare minimum cutoff is. Dewgong is an Icy Wind spamming Pokemon, so it does make things a little bit questionable. If you had to make a choice between a higher defense or a higher HP Dewgong though, I'd probably favor the higher defense one, because if you reduce the charge move damage from your opponents and you're eating multiple charge moves, that's 4 damage from charge moves, maybe even more that you could be reducing, and that could be more valuable than like 2 or 3 extra HP in the long run, if you catch my drift. But once again, evolving multiple Dewgongs of different stat weights is probably the best way to go. Now, while this defense situation sounds very tantalizing, there is of course a limit to the defense, 141 defense, and a Dewgong could have a high enough attack stat where it gets the breakpoint on your super high defense Dewgong anyways, which is why I'm recommending the attack breakpoint of 102.89. With that attack breakpoint, even if you don't have the super high defense, if you are up against a defensively weighted Dewgong, you'll be able to keep the matchup more even because you're both getting the breakpoint on each other, which means nobody's dominating the other one in the 0-2 shield situation, which is kind of ridiculous. Not only that, but this attack breakpoint encompasses the Umbreon breakpoint, like the full range of it. The minimum for the Umbreon attack breakpoint is the 101.79, which is against the rank 1 Umbreon. If you checked out my Umbreon PvP IV deep dive, you'd know that I recommend going for a more defensively weighted Umbreon, so if that's the case, then you have to go closer to 102.81. But you know what? 102.89, that covers that. So, sounds good to me, right? This range can also encompass Mew. Mew's attack range to get the breakpoint on it is going to be 102.03 to 104.35. When it comes to the 104.35 though, that is up against max defense Mew. Players don't have control over their Mew IVs, so I feel like going in the 102.5 to like 102.7 something range is probably comfortable for the majority of Mews, which once again, 102.89 covers. And then this can also help you out against Trevenant. Looking at weather boosted Trevenant IVs, typically you can get the breakpoint on them with this attack range as well. If it is a higher defense Trevenant or the rank 1 Trevenant, you won't get the breakpoint, so then the clean matchups become a little bit less clean, but not everybody has such high stat product Trevenants or high defense Trevenants, so something cool to keep in mind there. There is one final matchup I do want to note in this video, and that is the Toxicroak matchup. You don't get a breakpoint on Toxicroak typically. Most high stat product, even most egg hatch Toxicroak, you're going to need to have higher than a 102.89 attack stat to get a breakpoint on them. However, in highly competitive formats, such as like the Sylph Arena, where you have the C6 pick 3 meta going on, if it's a format that favors Toxicroak, the Toxicroak mirror is almost completely made by the attack breakpoint, and going for a super exaggerated high attack stat on a Toxicroak is a bit advantageous in those type of situations. In those situations, if Dewgong is also viable, they might be thrifting on their defense enough where you're able to catch them slipping up a little bit. So you're not going to catch Toxicroak all the time. In GBL, you probably never will get the attack breakpoint on Toxicroak, but you know, the higher attack stat is, the more potential there is to get that breakpoint on Toxicroak. So what's better then? The high attack, the high defense, or the high stat product Dewgong? I have to say it's a little bit of a personal decision for you. Like, I'm cataloging the breakpoints here, but there's such a wide range of things to do, especially if you look at the article where I talk about more stats. You know, it's kind of hard to say. It comes up to you what advantage you want to have, what kind of meta you think you're going to be up against. Personally, for a GBL type meta, completely blind meta, I'd favor the attack breakpoint or a high stat product Dewgong, just because, you know, you've got the random unknown opponents. It's not a very concentrated meta. The super high defense Dewgong mostly helps out in the Dewgong mirror, so that's what you're trying to like double down on with that. But is your opponent going to use a Dewgong, especially in today's meta with, you know, Registeel, Walrein, all the fighting and electric types? Dewgong's not in a great spot, so getting a big advantage in the mirror doesn't seem like that big of an advantage compared to getting an advantage with just greater bulk or an advantage with the attack breakpoints. However, when it does come to a more competitive tournament format, like a bracketed tournament, a C6 pick 3 meta, sort of like what the Sylph Arena does, and if Dewgong is favored in that kind of meta, then yeah, absolutely going for the super high max defense Dewgong could be really good, because if your opponent's using a high stat product Dewgong and they don't get the breakpoint on you and you get the breakpoint on them, then yeah, you're going to completely destroy them in that mirror matchup, which could be huge, especially in a bracketed tournament where every single victory matters a lot. Where GBL, it's just, oh, I lost, okay, I'll play like 5 more battles, hope I win. And as always, linked in the description and linked to the article, I have these canned PvP IV tables on PvPIVs.com highlighting the IVs that hit the stat ranges that I talk about. So this particular table has the attack breakpoint and isn't focused on the defense. It's just focused on having generalized good bulk, which means, the higher you are up on the stat product ladder here, the overall better your attack weighted Dewgong will likely be in practice. If you scroll down even further and open up to like past 1000, then you might be a little bit too attack weighted, in my opinion. That said, there is reasons to go for a super high attack weight Dewgong still. So if you can evolve a very high attack weight one, by all means. And then, as per usual, these tables are editable. You can edit the stat ranges. So the PvP IV guide, linked in the description, goes over a whole bunch of different stat ranges. If you find certain stat ranges are more appealing to you than others, then you can edit these numbers so you can make your own personally curated table. But yeah, this one here is for the attack weight, and I also have one for the defense weights as well, and ones that can hit the attack breakpoint and the defense breakpoints at the same time. Yeah, all linked in the description. So that's about all I gotta say about Dewgong's IVs in Great League PvP right now. If you got any comments, anything additional to add to Dewgong IVs, please comment below. My personal schedule has been kind of in a blender lately. I took a new position at work, so between orientation and, working day shift and night shift, flipping flopping back and forth with that, and then other personal life events, it's been very difficult for me to put out content lately, but I feel this is kind of temporary. I should be back in the swing of things in no time here. But yeah, if I'm slipping on the Dewgong IVs, please let me know and let the world know so we can build better Dewgongs. At any rate, if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips here. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. If you're eating 4 charge moves and you eat 4 charge moves,